Hello and welcome to the 227th edition of the Weekly Waypoint, the show where I talk about my week and the things that interest me. Today we are playing more Fortnite, although this match is not nearly as good as last week's match. You'll see. I don't think I've really played it since last week, so you know, that's probably part of the reason why. But also this is just kind of how solo matches tend to go. Last week I kind of got lucky with the one I recorded. Either that or last week they gave me bots and this week they stopped giving me bots. I don't know how it works. I always thought that if they spectate you after they die they couldn't be bots, but who knows. This week I ate too much chippy and have been having stomach problems for 3 days. No. That's not what we're going to talk about today, although it is true. No, this week I got my iPad and boy howdy was it interesting getting the thing. If you are ever given the choice of courier, as they like to call it in the business, do not choose DHL. Don't choose. I thought my Hermes were bad. Don't choose DHL. As anyone who was following me on Twitter knows, first of all, didn't come on the Monday. I don't work Mondays, I work Tuesdays. Was very annoyed that it did not come on a Monday that it said it would be coming. It was like, oh hey, you can track your parcel. Your stop number's 79. I was like, that seems like a long way off, but okay. And then as the day went further on and the van crept very slowly down the list of stops, I went, I'm not getting this today, am I? And then the tracking stopped working and I went, I'm not getting this today, am I? Viewer, I did not get it on a Monday. They did this cute thing where they told me it was back at the sorting facility. I was like, why is it back at the sorting facility? And then an hour later they decided to add a notification with a timestamp from before it went back to the sorting facility saying, oh hey, just so you know, it's been delayed until tomorrow. I was like, you're not fooling me. I have screenshots. Anyway, don't worry, definitely coming on a Tuesday. I work in the evenings on a Tuesday. Hopefully it will come before I go to work, right? Sort of. Because you see, they delivered it 10 doors down. Here's how well I know my neighbours from 10 doors down. Not enough. Not at all. Not at all, actually. Never met them. Now I've met them. They seem lovely. Luckily, because, you know, they could have just opened it and gone, oh, look, an iPad, that's ours now. What? Sorry, no package came here, sorry. I phoned the guy up to ask him where it had been delivered. He told me 2 doors up. It wasn't 2 doors up, it was 10 doors down. Before I phoned the DHL guy, I DM'd DHL with my issue. They got back to me 2 days later. Do yourself a favour, don't go DHL. Anyway, that was Tuesday. I'm recording this on a Sunday. I've had my iPad all week. How's the bloomin' iPad? It's bloomin' great. Thank you for bloomin' asking. I went over the various reasons why I wanted to have an iPad in last week's video, so go and watch that if you would like more information as to how I justified this expense. In a world where we're living in a cost of living crisis and bills are going up, I'm like, you know what? Fancy an iPad. No, but seriously though, I love it to bits. I love having it in front of me for like a second screen to like watch a video while I'm playing a game. Which game? I'll get to that later. It's nice to just have an Apple device after not having one for like 7 years? I feel like it's been about 7 years since I last used my iPod Touch 5th generation. By the way, yeah, I considered editing this whole bore thing out, but I thought, no, it's too good. But what I like it most of all, what I appreciate most about my iPad is it's just a really nice £320 solution to reading Marvel comics at a decent size. No, the screen is really nice, like really fucking nice. Like sometimes I just sit and look at the home screen. Isn't that a bit sad? I know it's a bit sad, but if anyone's ever owned one of these Retina displays, you probably understand. It's, like I said last week, it's just a bit sexy. But yeah, it's really great. I'm really happy to have it. It's not something that's like gonna revolutionize my life or anything. I'm not like, wow, I can do so much now that I have this iPad. Tablets have always been this kind of weird middle technology between PCs and mobiles, but I'm glad I have it as like an extension of my abilities to like multitask and stuff. It's been really nice and handy. I also have the 3-month trial of I almost said Google Play Pass of Apple Arcade, and there's nothing too crazy on there. They've got like Fruit Ninja Classic Plus and Jetpack Joyride 2, and I'm like, these are all just the same games I played 10 years ago. But it does have a lot of new stuff there as well. I find that with mobile gaming, I tend to look at app stores and there's just nothing which really grabs me because There are so many kind of like subgenres of mobile game I've never played that I never look at something and go, ooh, this reminds me of that. I don't have it the same way I do with video games. So if anyone has any games that run on an iPad, or probably just iOS games, they probably all work, that you would like to recommend, please feel free to do so. But enough about that. This week, I have been getting back into Final Fantasy XIV because patch 6.2 dropped, and no, I'm not going to give any story spoilers, obviously. You know me, I'm good about that kind of stuff. Most people who play Final Fantasy XIV are good about that kind of stuff because the story is just so fucking good, it would be a crime to spoil. But I have done all of the main story quests for 6.2. I spent an evening doing them, you know, a good solid 3 to 4 hours of questing, and it's getting really exciting now. 6.1 was all about establishing lore and what we might be doing next and kind of like getting over the whole at the end of 6.0. But 6.2 really feels like we're starting to get into the meat of what we're doing now, and it's really, really interesting and exciting and intriguing. But last time, when I subbed for 6.1, I didn't actually stick around and do much endgame content because something else grabbed my attention. Luckily, my sub didn't exactly go to waste because I did create a new character on a different I nearly said realm, on a different data center, so that I could play with my friend from work who's recently started playing, and that was fun to level up a fresh character. Like, it was more fun than I expected it to be. You'll see it in a future video sometime. It was really nice to just kind of like revisit the early portion of the game and feel like I'm taking a break from being, you know, the savior of Eorzea or whatever. There are other titles, of course, but we won't spoil them. But no, with 6.2, I think I really am going to try and get into the endgame as much as possible when juggling it with Wrath of the Lich King Classic when that pre-patch comes out tomorrow from the time that you're watching this. That's right, I'm juggling 2 MMO subscriptions because I never learn. But no, last night I finally unlocked level 50 in Palace of the Dead, which for those of you who don't know is kind of like a roguelike dungeon leveling experience, which is really good for XP, so I'm glad I got that out of the way. It's also kind of difficult to get level 50 unlocked. There's a whole thing where floors 51 to 60 are optimal XP because you can queue from level 51. But to do that, you first have to reach level 50, and the problem is you matchmake every 10 floors, and it's really, really rare that people don't have floors 51 to 60 unlocked. So when you're trying to matchmake specifically for floors 41 to 50, well, it literally took me almost 2 hours of queuing. But I'm glad I did that. I was leveling Arcanist, and it really is a fun way to level a new class, because in Palace of the Dead you also level up faster. You have a separate level to what you have in the outside world, so you kind of get a preview of a class abilities and how your class is going to play before you actually get to that point in the real game, which sounds like kind of a superficial benefit on the surface, but when you actually do it, it is nice to know, like, oh, I know what's going to unlock later. It's like you're looking forward to unlocking the Emerald Carbuncle, you know? But yeah, I feel like I know pretty much the main rotation of a level 30 Arcanist before you learn Summoner, and I really like it so far. It's the first caster I've really knuckled down and started playing. I have leveled a little bit of Thaumaturge, but Thaumaturge, kind of boring. It's kind of like a mix-up of an older version of Balance Druid and Arcane Mage in terms of mana management. I'm also continuing to level my Reaper. He's almost level 80. Leveling in Final Fantasy XIV is so fucking slow. I wish they would give those pre-order bonuses out as subscription bonuses instead or something, because it's just not really fair. I've never been a fan of the scraping together from different sources style of XP leveling for alts in Final Fantasy XIV, but, you know, it just takes getting the hang of and becoming familiar with all the different ways and the optimal way of doing things, and then when it's in your brain it's probably fine, but at the minute it kind of feels like they could improve that flow a little bit. I also unlocked my Island Sanctuary. I also joined a free company, by the way, which is how I know what I'm going to say next. People are raving about Island Sanctuaries, but they're okay. They're a nice distraction for when you're in a DPS queue, I guess. They're no Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley, I'll put it that way. And I haven't, like, got a huge way into it, so maybe I haven't quite got to the hook of it yet. You know, I've got crops growing, I've got animals wandering around, I've done harvesting. It's just kind of there, it's fine. I suppose it's probably more exciting for the people who only play Final Fantasy XIV and nothing else, but as you well know by now, that is most definitely not me. I like to hop to and fro between many different games. But yes, I have finally joined a free company because I realised that's something I was missing in Final Fantasy XIV. I feel like when you're part of a guild or a clan or a free company or whatever the fuck they want to call it in that particular MMO, it really does enhance the experience. It gives you something to come back to, you know, talking to people while you're experiencing the game. It's just, you know, even if you're not doing like raids and stuff together, it's just get yourself a free company, get yourself a guild. You really should. It can feel a little bit weird to just throw yourself into a mix of strangers who are all pre-established friends, but I've done it enough times now to the point where, you know, it's fine. I get used to it. And they are all really friendly and lovely. They offered me access to a chest with a whole bunch of pets and mounts in, and they were like, just take what you want. And I'm like, you've known me for 5 minutes. I'm gonna hold off. Be kind of awkward if they ended up hating me and then they were like, that fucker stole all of our pets and mounts. I also did a bit of cooking because I was waiting in that Palace of a Dead queue for a long time, okay? And the Arcanist MSQ quest I was doing, that's not really MSQ, but the Arcanist quest I was doing wanted me to queue into a solo duty, and that would have required leaving the hour-and-a-half long Palace of a Dead queue, and I almost did, and I'm so glad I didn't, because I almost spat my drink out when it actually went off. I didn't expect it to ever find me a group. The fun thing about Final Fantasy XIV is there is just so much you can do in that game. And I was like, you know, I'm running out of inventory space, but I have like all these raw fish, so I might as well learn cooking, turn them, like cook them up, and then I can safely sell the meals because I'm not going to need the meals for anything. So I did that, actually did free up some inventory spaces too by doing that, which is pretty neat. The only problem with, well, I say the only problem, yeah, Final Fantasy XIV is so highly praised, but it does have a few problems. One of its problems is inventory space management and crafting. They need a craft bag. They really need a craft bag, because I have botany, fishing, carpentry, and cooking, or culinary, and culinarian. That's the name of the job anyway. And those are like 4 professions out of many more. And I have a retainer full of materials, another retainer half full of materials, and my bags are pretty much full. So yeah, they really need a craft bag, man. But the reason I bring it up is because when I joined my lovely free company, someone melded materia for me so that when I bought my new spear, I could actually... It's weird, like it was like a way higher item level, but it was worse stats, but that's because it had materia slots, which you were supposed to slot in order to make that better than the previous spear. So they did that for me, which is nice. And it made me realise that, boy howdy, I would like to have a Disciple of the Land profession up to level 90 so that I could do my own materia melding. Because materia melding feels to me what jewel crafting looks like in World of Warcraft, and I've always liked the idea of jewel crafting in World of Warcraft, but I've never really quite gotten around to it. Anyway, enough Final Fantasy, one last topic. I mentioned I've been reading lots of comics on my shiny new iPad, and it's true, I'm back into Amazing Spider-Man. I mentioned either last week or the week before that I was getting a little bit burnt out on reading through them because it got to a really boring storyline. Well, I'm pleased to report that after the boring storyline, there's some really fun and interesting storylines. Still not a fan of how half of Peter Parker's day-to-day storyline seems to be taking place in a different comic that isn't recommended in comicbookreadingorders.com in Spectacular Spider-Man, but hey, you know, it's fine. There is a video on YouTube that says the entire history of Spider-Man in 70 minutes, and that is decades and decades worth of Spider-Man lore, and I'm tempted to click on it sometimes, and then just like, you know, learn all of it, and then go through and read the select comics where the interesting stuff happens. But as it is, I'm going to continue reading through the comicbookreadingorders.com guide, and hope that keeps my interest. If it doesn't, I might watch that video instead. I have it in my watch later list if I need it. It will be a long project though, for sure. But for anyone interesting, I've just got to the point where the Hobgoblin first appears, and the Hobgoblin is actually a really fun villain for the first time around. I've never really seen him show up in much Star Wars media besides... Star Wars? Sorry, I'm watching Darth Vader do Kamehameha. Definitely haven't seen Hobgoblin show up in Star Wars media. But I haven't seen him show up in much modern Spider-Man stuff, so maybe he's more of an of-his-time kind of character, but I don't know, I quite like him. But yeah, it has just been really nice lying in bed with my iPad, scrolling down through comics, seeing the art the way it's meant to be seen instead of doing like the zoom in on a panel per panel thing. Something that was really annoying me about it on my phone was the era of Spider-Man I'm reading for some reason doesn't play well with that AI recognized panel per panel view. But it's nice to be able to read comics in full size and not worry about compromising on art, because sometimes it would like zoom in on part of a panel and it would you could tell it was never meant to be zoomed in that far. But either way, we've reached the end of this week's video. This is about gonna do it for me. If you don't mind, I'm gonna set my tablet up. Oh, I forgot to mention I got a foldy case so it can sit up on my desk and look nice. But not the one Apple sells, because that one's 60 fucking pounds or more, if I don't remember, but it was something lots. I spent a tenner, and it sits up nicely on my desk, and I can use it to watch Twitch streams while I'm doing Palace of the Dead and stuff like that. So, you know, like I said, multitasking capabilities, they've gone through the roof. Oh bloody hell, I've done that thing where I start to wrap the video up and there's still like a minute left to go. Okay, haven't done this in a while. Fuck it, random animal facts. Donkey facts. A male donkey is called a jack. A female donkey is called a jennet or jenny. When a female horse and a male donkey mate, the resulting offspring is called a mule. When a male horse and female donkey mate, the offspring is called a hinny. When a male zebra and a female donkey mate, the offspring is called a zedonk or a zebras. All of these resulting offspring are sterile, i.e. they cannot produce offspring themselves. I think I've just discovered my new Twitter title. I like to put a dumb title after my Twitter name and change it every now and again. Zedonk Enthusiast. It's gonna have to be Zedonk Enthusiast. There's no other title. You like donkeys, but you've got little stripy legsy.